Hi, everyone. This is Matthew Archambault. Welcome to another live stream. And today's going to be really fun. And well, if you like drawing accurate, I welcome Phoenix to the live stream. If you want to in the chat say hello, that would be really, really cool. And my volume's working. So let's just lower that for a second. All right. All right. So where are we here? Let's get rid of that ad. Phoenix, welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah, definitely. If you're joining me here today, say hello. Okay, so your time is really valuable. I don't want to waste your time. This is going to be the first class on Mondays in a series of classes. So what I'd like to do is, I've got so much glare on my glasses. What the heck? I just cleaned them. What I like to do is take one technique. My foundation drawing class and all of my classes at the School of Visual Arts are starting this week. Going off-road with Joe. Good morning, Joe. That's a good one. Gee, you made me laugh today. Like I feel like someone dragged me like behind a bus. I don't know what. Yeah, okay, story for another day. Fall semester, School of Visual Arts starts on Wednesday. I'm really, really looking forward to it. And so what I'd like to do here this fall semester on YouTube is I'd like to take just one technique that I teach in the classroom. I teach a lot of techniques, but I'd like to take one technique and isolate it and teach it here on YouTube. And that's the goal for the next, I don't know, we'll see how it goes. If you join me, I'll push it. And if you get a little bored with it, well, maybe I'll do something different. And these techniques are really, really foundational to your improvement. Now, the way that we improve is we do the boring techniques over and over and over again until they become implanted into our subconscious. When these boring techniques get implanted into our subconscious brain, then we can consciously think about other things like creativity. And so that's what today's class is going to be all about, the beginning of that. Now, listen, I understand. Not all drawing needs to be about likeness and accuracy and all that. Today's class is going to be about accuracy and it is going to be about likeness, but it doesn't need to be about that all the time. And for a lot of artists, that's not their main deal. Like they just are really creative. They just like to draw for the sake of drawing. They don't really care about likeness. But it's just nice to be able to turn on that part of your brain to be able to draw accurately. So if this is not for you, stick with us and maybe just use today's live stream as practice. If you like to draw portraits and you struggle with the likeness thing, and it's something that you really, really want to get better at, well, then this class is definitely for you. So, Nancy, welcome. Happy Labor Day. I don't know. I know all different countries celebrate Labor Day on different days. We're Labor Day here in the U.S., so we're going to do this thing. Okay, so let's see. What am I missing here? Yes, this should be your practice if you really struggle with likeness. We're going to talk about 3 techniques that I have talked about ad nauseum forever. And the thing that I've noticed, and I'll close with this and then we'll get to drawing because I really don't want to waste too much of your time with me. You listening to me talk. I want you to draw with me here today. The thing that has helped me to improve over and over and over again and get better, like compounding interest in, like, say, your 401k account, is that every semester, like our semester starts on September 3rd for me, I will be teaching the same techniques that I taught back in the late 90s, the same techniques. And you would think that I would get bored with it, but I don't get bored with it because when you keep revisiting these techniques, you get better and better and better, like compounding interest in a retirement plan. And the other thing is that you start to see these techniques in a different way. And yes, you just have to understand this idea of subconscious brain and conscious brain. So we're just trying to get this into your subconscious brain today. Okay. Rockflower Cats, hello, happy Labor Day from Philadelphia. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, let me switch to my paper, and I've got We're going to do a quick little warm up here together. And I was doing like a little warm up, and we've got 19 people. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Okay, so September 1st. All right. Now, what is the main difference between my class here on YouTube and the members only class that I do from my website, drawingtutorialsonline.com? Members, well, the difference is basically my members get a critique from me, and I get to draw on their artwork in Photoshop, and they get to download their critique, and they get to ask me questions live in Zoom. It's a little bit more personable than a chat. A chat is great, but live one-on-one. So we draw together and then we do that critique together. So it's a little bit different, and critique is really where it's at. Now, all right, warm-up time. I'm keeping it simple today, everybody. We got a little cast shadow over here. That doesn't look great. Let me move that a little bit. Okay, so warm up for me. You know the drill. I'm just going to do some ovals. I'm going to do this oval starting out. Let me tape this piece of paper down. I didn't tape my scrap piece of paper down, but I've got the other pieces of paper right below it. This is huge. This is what we will be doing tomorrow, September 3rd, actually. First thing, I'm going to have everybody who's going to be very nervous in class on the first day of class draw these ovals, okay? It is just like imperative that you do this. And notice I am not lifting my pencil off the page. If you're new with me here on YouTube and you're just discovering me, you're still in your pajamas and you turned on YouTube on your phone and you're like, you opened up the app and you're like, who is this dude? Yeah. Okay, we like to start with ovals, and we do not want to draw the ovals like this. And for those of you who have been with me forever, and you've heard me say this like forever, like I love repetition. Repetition is the mother of skill. So you've got to do these little ovals and then do these little circles. Now, in Giorgio Pichetto, welcome. Giorgio from Italy. Yes, of course. How can I not remember Giorgio's name from Italy? Totally. Welcome. So, yes, this gets my fingers warmed up. Like I'm so stiff today. Like my body feels so stiff. So this is just getting me warmed up. Now, okay. So this is chicken scratch, where you constantly lift your pencil. Do your drawings look like that when you draw a portrait? Or if you're drawing somebody's leg, do you draw like 14 lines for like the front of the leg? We want to avoid that. Now, in today's class, yes, we are going to be drawing with straight lines. So one downward stroke. That's what we're going to be doing today. Okay. Now, the way that I normally like to draw is not that way. I like to draw with continuous line. And as I progress through the drawing today, we will do that. But in today's drawing, like, look, one stroke for an angle, one stroke for an angle, one stroke for an angle, okay? It's not, oh, let's get the side of the statue's hair and let's do that. You want to avoid that. So that's a pitfall we don't want to fall into today. We want to have like one big, this is called a macro angle. I've been talking about this for years, literally since like 1998. And macro angle. Now, truth be told, this is just a technique in isolation, and I find it really difficult to draw with straight lines because I've so adapted myself to curvy lines, and I've adapted myself to this continuous line. So for me to go backwards and start to draw with these straight lines, sometimes it's a little painful. And but it's still, you have to understand, we're just talking about these techniques in isolation, and this is how you learn, when you isolate these techniques. Okay. Now, let me just throw this last thing at you, and then we're going to get to draw this statue. Understand, this is just a technique. A technique is not your style. Your style is different than a technique. You should practice techniques. Like, techniques are like for an athlete, like stretching, right? You just stretch a little bit before. I was watching the U.S. Open here in Queens on Long Island where I live. I don't live in Queens. I live a little further out east. But the athletes are going to volley a little bit before the game. They're going to stretch a little bit. I'm sure they're stretching in the locker room before they come out on the court. So what this is akin to stretching. It's not your style. I don't think you should draw in straight lines unless you're deliberately doing that for your style. So Square Gamer Guru, can you draw me next? Okay, good. We've got somebody who's going to bring a little life into the live stream here today. All right, let's do this. I'm going to switch my paper. And yeah, look at this. Somebody joining me on YouTube. Wow, beautiful drawing. Warm up. So let's just put over here, warm up. Warm up is just like stretching. That's all. Easy peasy. All right, let's move this. And I'm going to get a little drink of coffee. It's September, and I've got my reindeer mug, okay? Yeah, it's my favorite mug, one of my favorite mugs. Now, for this, I think I'm going to start with a semi-dull pencil. I don't want to have a super sharp pencil. Now, okay, so this is just for me, for video purposes. I'm going to mark the top of my paper and bottom of my paper because I don't want to draw off video. That would be very annoying for you. And then I promise y'all, I'll zoom in. We've got a gray day here on Eastern Long Island. It's a little gray. So my area here, I like to draw portraits about 3.5 to 4 inches tall for my videos. So this is roughly, it's going to be like 8 inches, my live area. And then my portrait will be like 4 inches. And then you have to draw the neck. You can't have a floating head. It just looks weird. I mean, you can, but I don't like to do a floating head. Okay. So with all this being said, now my first mark is going to be a big macro angle. Oh, wait a second, people. I want to show you the techniques that are going to be going through my mind as I'm drawing. And I want you to think about these same techniques. Let me show you. So you should do this first before you start any portrait. Let's say somebody asked you to do a portrait drawing. You should do this part first. So the first thing that you should do is if you have Photoshop or if you have a printed photo, technically you should draw these marks, these measure lines. And one of the most important measure lines should be you go to the very top of the hair and the very bottom of the chin. And what's just the middle? Not the Loomis technique, not the thirds. This is just drawn from a photo here today. Where's the middle from the top of the head to the bottom of the chin? It's right up above from where the eyebrows are. It's just really good to know that. And then let's do another one. What's right across from the bottom of the ear? Well, it's the top of the upper lip. And then what's right below, say, the mark? What's right below the mark on the inside of the bridge of the nose? Okay, it's kind of the lips are going a little bit to the left of that. So you should be constantly, good morning, measuring outdoors. Stephen, correct, yes. You should be constantly measuring with plumb lines and level lines. The other thing that is going in my mind as I am drawing is this is physically. I am physically looking at these big, massive angles as if I put a ruler on the edge of the model's hair. I'm not going to draw all the different curls. That would be not good in the first 5 minutes of the drawing. I'm just doing these angles first, okay? And then the other thing that is a byproduct of this is I'm glancing at the negative space. So these are the 3 techniques that I've talked about forever, because for me, with a portrait, they are, and with a still life, with just something that you want to draw accurate, these are the hallmarks: the measure lines, the angles, and the negative space. Again, now when I draw in my own style, I kind of don't do this physically. I do it mentally, and you've got to understand the difference. Okay. So I'm just starting with the left of the model, And am I going to have enough room if I start there? Yeah, that's cool. And I want to just go to the corner over here, and then the head tapers down. Now, don't go too slow with this, because then what's going to happen, and I'll zoom in, I promise, then what's going to happen is you're going to overanalyze, and that's no good either. Like, you don't want to go too slow. So I'm going to go all the way down, big macro angle. Okay, I'm probably going to have to move my sheet of paper over a little bit if I commit to that. And then this kind of comes in a little bit. Don't go too slow, people. Just kind of get this down. And chin, neck, and if this is the chin and that's the back of the hair, it's a little bit higher. Now I could add this little outcropping of the back of the hair, and it comes in, and then this kind of angles out, angles down a little bit more, kind of like that. So that's my first go through. I don't know if I love it or I hate it. I'm not going to judge. That's my first go through. Now, before, let's see if I'm on or I'm off today. This will be a test. So I'm measuring, I have my reference on my iPad, and I'm just measuring how tall is that. It's basically 4.5 inches. And so I'm a little tall. So to the chin, so I should maybe think about putting a little dot there. That's a little bit closer to 4. I'm doing sight size. Okay. And so, yeah, it feels a little tall. No, not the end of the world. I'm not going to use my eraser. I'm going to keep going here. Now, what I should do is, for you on YouTube, I should zoom in just a touch, okay? And I should technically move the entire drawing over, but let me zoom in a little bit. And I am going to move the drawing over. This is going to be, just be patient with me for about like 30 seconds, because I've got like 14 million pieces of blue tape. And I want to move this over so it's optimal for you to view here on YouTube. And yeah, I really appreciate you joining me here today. This is going to be really fun. Now, I'm going to kind of be doing the same thing for my members of Drawing Tutorials Online on Tuesday on the Zoom call, but we are doing the full body. Totally. We're going to do full body pose, and I'm really looking forward to full body. And I'm also looking forward to seeing my members again. We've got members from all over Alaska, Germany, God, down south. It's pretty cool. Canada. It's really neat how you could teach people from all over the world on one Zoom class and on YouTube here as well. Okay, a little bit more coffee. Hope I'm not giving you any sound effects there. That wouldn't be good. Now, okay, I said that this is going to be the top. So the top point of this statue, Aphrodite, I got this reference from the Metropolitan Museum of Art. It's royalty free, and obviously, because this statue is really old. And now I want to just go back and look at my measure lines. Check this out. So I could even keep this open. I don't have it in front of me. You see me, I'm looking to the left. I don't want to look to the left and draw like that. That wouldn't be comfortable for my neck. So I'm going to just I'll keep that open. And just as we're drawing this today, and then I'll get rid of it. So I can say from right below this part is the side of the head right there where the eye is. Okay, so that is something that y'all should be like really thinking about. I'm going to kind of get rid of that for me. And I just want to kind of freehand. So again, I shouldn't get too crazy. I should try to go a little faster. Okay. And I'm going to get this like little bump it. That's pretty funny. I think that was like something from like the 90s, like hairstyles used to have like a bump it. I'm really like, I am old, so it's okay if I age myself. Wasn't there like the Jersey Shore? And one of the characters had like a bump it. That is so freaking funny. Okay. So so what we're doing here, now I'm going to get rid of this because it's distracting me. I'm going to get rid of this because it's distracting me. Now, when you're drawing, everybody on YouTube, and you're drawing along with me, hopefully, don't press down so hard with those initial lines. Now, we can get rid of those kind of initial lines because they are background. And we can put a background tone, and they'll just disappear. Okay, so now we've got side of the face, and then it angles down, and then it angles in. Then we've got the chin. I want to do a little bit on the inside, very light, light, light jaw. Okay, and then I just want to suggest where I feel maybe the ear is. Okay, and the ear is going up. So I'm just doing straight lines. Now, this is so very counterintuitive for me. For some reason, it's working for me, but when I try to draw the figure with these straight lines, boy, it's like torture for me. I just can't do it. And the reason for that is I've just drawn thousands of gesture poses throughout the years in the classroom with continuous line, and continuous line is better for gesture. Flowy lines are better for gesture, and yeah, so I'm struggling, and it's good to see me struggle. It's always good to see the teachers struggle because teachers are real human beings too, and sometimes you get it first on the first go round, and sometimes you don't. So today, it's going to fight me a little bit, and I'm cool with that. And I'm accepting of that because, I haven't really been drawing that much. It was a full holiday weekend, and I was doing a lot of stuff around the house and getting ready for teaching at the college, making my Canvas courses. And so I really haven't been drawing. And so you have to be very realistic with yourself. You can't just be upset like if you haven't been drawing and then you just dive into doing something like this and it's not coming out the way that you want it to come out. Like that's being a little unrealistic. Like you've got to really give yourself like that grace period of like the warm up. And that's what I'm attempting to do right now. Okay. So we've got this down, right? And it's cool. It's okay. It's not perfect, but it's a start. Now, you can't really stay here. You've got to work more in the middle. So this was just our initial go through. Now, I am going to stick to the 4.5 inches high. So I'm committed to that measurement for my site size. And I'm also committed to that measurement because that's a really, for me, I think, you could disagree with me. That's cool. I think that's a really good size for a head to do a drawing in like 2 hours here on YouTube. That's what I feel like I could handle in 2 hours. If it was life size, if it was double that size, it would just take me way too long. So the next thing that I'm a big fan of doing is I'm a big fan of drawing shape of hair versus the shape of the face. And I'm just kind of doing big angles. Now it's a light statue, so we don't want to press down too hard. I'm looking at this width over here, okay? And then that kind of comes in to the press down light in the initial stages of the drawing. Now, when I teach in my classroom on Wednesday, they're animation students, I am going to teach them this technique. This is probably the second or third technique I'm going to be teaching them. But in all honesty, like this is really meant for people who want to do longer drawings, and most animation students have no interest really in doing longer life drawings. They're really all about shorter gestural style drawings, and this is not for that. This is not for that. So we've got to put things into context, right? And I think that's really important. Context is like really king when it comes to what techniques to use where. And this is not for gesture. This is for doing a longer portrait where you're going to spend an hour, 2 hours. There's just one woman that I follow on YouTube. I'm sorry, on Instagram, and I was glancing through one of their posts, and they're like, "Oh, this is a 75-hour drawing," and I'm like, "Oh my god!" I'm like, "Okay, I used to do that when I was younger, like work on paintings for days, not hours." But we're putting things into context right now. We're working on this for a couple of hours here today, so that's my first go through. I've got my hair, I've got my face. Looks a little wide to me. It's looking a little wide to me. So now what I'm going to do, it could be wide. Now, I didn't measure the width, and I'm going to measure it. I'm going to take my ruler, and I'm going to go from the widest part, the left of the hair, all the way. Oh, boy, that's only 3 3/4. Omar, welcome. Denny. Thank you, Denny. Oh boy, I said that. I know this is wider than that. So I'm off by about 3/8. Okay, not bad. Well, that kind of sucks. Damn, that sucks. I'm off today. Damn. Okay, so let me double check that. Oh, Matt, you suck. Okay, let's fix this. Let's stop with the negativity and let's just fix it. So I'm going to come up over here, come up over here, and then I'm looking at the shape of the forehead. I'm going to bring this in, and I'm going to bring this in, and I'm going to bring this in. A little bit more. Maybe angle that. Okay, so at least I noticed it early and not late. And I didn't work on the drawing for like an hour, and then like, oh God, like it's too light. So you don't need to do sight size. Like when I'm drawing from a live model in the classroom, I do not draw sight size. I do not. Now, sometimes when you make these drawings like this, and you have these first initial lines that you do that are not necessarily accurate, don't worry about like going on in there with your eraser and erasing them out as much as you possibly can. You don't need to do that. Leave those lines there. They create like a really cool texture, and they create like a loose vibe to it. And I really think that that's something that you should just kind of like roll with. And I think that would be really, really good. Okay. So I'm going to leave this as is, and I can always fix that a little bit later, because I think now is a good time for me to start to go on in here and start to draw some facial features. Now, if I said that's the top, and I said bottom of the chin, right? So bottom of the chin. And I'm guesstimating now. I'm not using a ruler. This is good practice. So right about here is the middle from here to here, basically. So I said that that middle line is eyebrows are just right below that middle line. Now, if we go back and we look at this, check this out. So our measure line. So look, here's our middle line, and then the eyebrow area, or we could say that shadow shape, is just a little bit below that, right? Okay, so let's go back and let's just, so I'm using angles. So we've got an angle, and then, oh, let me just kind of look at this, and I want to share it with you. Where is the bridge of the nose? It's right up above that part of the hair, and then the nose is on the edge of the lower lip. Okay, got you. Cool. So now we can do bridge of the nose. Bridge of the nose, let's come on down. And I'm going to get rid of that right now because I want to keep it clean for everybody. So I think what I just need to do is go a little faster. Go a little faster, put some of these marks down, and get the lip. I've got the shadow under the lower lip. So these are landmarks. These are landmarks, okay? So I'm really suggesting landmarks, suggesting right now. And yes, and I'm going to draw the way that I like to draw. I like to use shape. So I'm going to put a little shape there. I'm not drawing the facial features, I'm drawing shapes. Okay, so a little shadow here, kind of under the nose. And then lower lip, shadow, casting a shadow. Upper lip, separation. Could be a little higher away from the bottom of the chin. This kind of loops. I'm going to go higher with this still. So I like to do these marks, and you should try this. Hold on, let me just get a little swig of coffee here. You should try these marks like this and see what that kind of does for you. Now, again, I'm not necessarily drawing the features, I'm drawing marks. And you can, if you struggle with likeness and you struggle with portrait drawing, you want to change your language and just, it's almost like you're tricking your mind. And you're tricking your mind into, if you struggle with drawing portraits and likeness and eyes and facial features and all that, you're not drawing facial features. You're just drawing abstract shapes. That's it. That's all you're doing within the context of measuring. Now, I'm going to go a little lower with this. I'm not going to adhere so much to the sight size because I think I'm pretty good right now with that. I'm somewhat pleased with that face placement. And so do I need to be, this is where you need to be flexible. Now, do I need to be exactly from here to here 4.5? No, that's crazy. You've got to like adjust a little bit. And so sight size doesn't need to be like exact. It could be close enough. Okay. Now, again, this drawing that I'm doing for you all here on YouTube today is about drawing a likeness. Now, drawing a likeness is not the end all and be all for everybody. Some artists, they don't enjoy that. And I just want you to understand that I understand that. And you might have a style that is really not about likeness. And you just want to embrace that. You want to embrace that. So I'm just going to take some of this out better. And okay, so I'm going to come a little wider. And there's a shadow on the edge of the face there, so it's fine. And how far in is this eye? About yay in right there. And we're going up to the forehead. Now, another thing, if you're drawing with me here on YouTube and we're drawing together, it's kind of cool. Just have your home base. What do I mean by your home base? Well, for me, home base is going to be this eye. And this mark on the bridge of the nose. That's my home base. And why? Because I understand that, and it's pretty contrasty over there. And I understand that little section of the statue's head. And so I'm comfortable with that. Now I'm going to get this eye socket shape. I love shapes, and shapes are huge. And so I'm going to come up side of the temple, and now where is the edge of the model's hair? So I'm going to go right here, or Aphrodite, and I'm going to go here, and then we look at this part of the face as like a teacup. It almost looks like a teacup because it's so round and soft. Slawjack, larger, at larger. Okay. What do you mean by that? So let me just get a little bit of this neck. And okay, Carol. So, hey, how about a device called a proportional divider? I have one of those, and you could use those. You can use those. Let me see. Where is mine? I can't find it because I never use it. Hold on, hold on. Totally, this thing. Now, I believe in, let me give you my philosophy, okay? So when I was in college, I used my calipers. So in college, we were drawing the skeleton. I went up to the skull. I measured the skull. I tightened my caliper up. And then I went over to my drawing, and I did that. Now, I forgot all about these, Carol. Thank you so much. So you could use that to help you, okay? And then there's this. So you could use this, and you know, if you're measuring something and then you use this side, it's the same proportion. And I think that's helpful, and I would encourage everyone to experiment with these tools. I used to use them. What I think and what I really enjoy because it's a challenge and it's good is that you just train your vision and you train your touch, Carol, to use those tools, but more importantly, to not use those tools and to kind of go back and forth. And so those tools are like really good training wheels, but this is doing it kind of without the training wheels. This is relying more on your vision and your touch, and it's both are good, Carol. Both are good. So um, yeah, I looked up the supposed porn star model. That was not a porn star model. Like absolutely not. It was just a model. um, so yeah, somebody in the last, just to give everyone like context, like somebody in the last live stream thought that the model that I was drawing, or 2 or 3 live streams ago, was in a porn actress, and I'm like, okay. But I don't think so. I don't think so. Because, of course, after the live stream, I was curious, and so I Googled it, and some other person came up that looked nothing like the model that I was drawing. So, hey, it's a live stream. You've got to expect some weird things to pop up, right? So I'm going to come on down now here. And so if this is the ear, we said that the ear is at the height of the upper lip. So let's go back and look at our measurements. So the bottom of the ear at the top of the upper lip. Okay, so wouldn't the space between the eyes be a little bit wider? It could be. I just need to keep drawing and keep figuring things out, but I appreciate the feedback. So now I'm going to upper lip. It's pretty high above that. Bottom of the ear. Muscius muskrat. Maybe. Yeah, okay, bottom of the ear. Now I'm going to come in with this part of the hair, which is going to be better for my width proportions. And so this is, listen, I'm telling you, people, I'm not frustrated because I didn't get it on the first go. It's always nice when you get it on the first go, because then you don't have to like constantly like readjust everything. And that's like a little annoying. But what you've got to take from today's live stream class here is you've just got to take that you need to do this sort of practice on a weekly or a bi-weekly basis, if not daily. Because, and you don't need to spend a long time doing this. We're spending a little bit of a longer time here today on YouTube, but again, everything is about, so let me widen this for you. Everything is about context. So this context that we have here today on YouTube is about you wanting to be able to get a likeness. So it's not about doing a gesture drawing. It's not about drawing out of our imagination. It's just simply about the context of drawing a likeness. That we're taking these 3 tools, negative space, measure lines, and angles in isolation, and we are trying to use just those tools to help us with the likeness. Now, if this is the point of the part of the hair, and I go across, that's where that outcropping of hair is, and then it comes out, and then it angles in, and then what is right across from this is below the eye. So I'll go a little lower with that. And that's an area that you're going to lose that edge into the background if this was a painting. Yeah, so Don Art Corner, I like to draw and then use the dividers to verify if I'm close. I love that. That's good too. I think there's a time and a place for everything, right? And these tools are really helpful. It's just I'm a big believer in, like, I teach the animation students a backgrounds class. It's perspective and backgrounds. And we do a lot of painting in Photoshop, right? So I I tell the students on like day one, I'm like, I don't use all the Photoshop tools. Like I'm just really drawing in Photoshop and I'm using my drawing skill to accomplish what, say, you're using a tool for. And like you have to just be comfortable with these sorts of things. And I think it's good to use both. I'm not anti-tool. But I think it's don't rely on the tools forever. Like eventually, what's a big difference between all of these things is your touch and your personal vision practice that you're doing and being able to quote unquote freehand this stuff. I think that's in today's day and age with, everybody being concerned about AI and all that, the difference between what you do with your touch and your vision is just you, and it's what the skill set that you're enhancing, right? By doing these sorts of exercises. Okay, so let me just get rid of that. All right. Hold on a second. Let me Denny. I try to do this from life, but I can't quite render well, and it looks especially when I try to get into the shadow part. Carol, I hear you. So, Denny, today's class is just about these angles and these measurements. And from life, you can't quite render well. The question, Denny, is, are there any shadows on the model? Because I've been in life drawing classes where there's no shadows on the model and there's just like the bank of fluorescence in the ceiling. Or I've had coaching students tell me, yeah, I'm at a life drawing class and I'm looking at the model and there's a window behind the model. So the model's backlit, like there's no shadows. And I'm like, oh my God, that would be awful. So you could be struggling maybe if there's no shadows and lights and the teacher didn't put like a spotlight on the model to enhance the light and shadow. So that's one thing. So let me get into that next, Denny, and let me just get like a little bit of coffee. 1 second. So I'm somewhat pleased with this. Do I think it's perfect? I do not think it's perfect. Am I somewhat pleased with it? I guess so. I guess so. Let me just do this because I have room. And 1 second. Cool. Okay. I know that just made such a huge difference. Absolutely. So now, Denny, listen to me. This is what you could think about doing next. So I'm going back to home base. So home base for me is here, this eye area, the eye socket, the shadow shapes. So I'm going to come on in and I'm already going dark and, it is what it is. I could always erase out some of these dark lines. I'm not worried about values today. I'm worried about accuracy and shape. So I don't want to get into the weeds and talk about too many different things. So Denny, I am just looking at this shadow shape above the statue's right eye, the left side of the photo. And I'm just going to concentrate now on this little area. And now what I'm going to do my best at is finding where the upper eyelid is. So I look at from here to here. Do I need to zoom in more? I'll zoom in just a touch. Yes. And so everybody on YouTube, do this. Look at your drawing right now. Look at the distance from the edge of the eyelid to the edge of the skin. And that distance is going to be helpful. So again, I like this little area because I feel as though I can micromanage it. So now, everybody, I am starting to use what is called smaller angles. I call them micro angles. So we're trying to use micro angles. And I'm also using these shapes because I draw better with shape. I just do. When it comes to likeness, shape is everything. So I'm starting to put a little shape. Now, look, lower eyelid comes a little lower, and then it angles up. I'm really using angles here today. This is a different way of drawing. It's just different. It's a little stiffer. Again, it's good for you to practice techniques in isolation. and you may not like this. You may not like this. I know when I do this on Wednesday in class, there are going to be students who absolutely despise drawing with the angles. And for a while, like a couple of years, like I couldn't do the angles anymore because I did so much life drawing that hey, Sandy. Yeah. It's just it feels, Sandy, very academic, right? It feels like a proper uh, drawing class when we come back to these statues. It feels very proper to me. Um, I love drawing statues. It's one of my favorite things to draw. I don't know if the angles on that face are correct, but now I'm gonna look at where the hair is. It's below the eye. It comes out just a little bit, and then I'm getting macro angles now. Oh, this is great practice. I'm telling you, people. It's stiff, but it's really good practice. I really have my style is a little bit more organic line. Now, okay, this is the part. This is a little bit higher, and this indent is the middle of the forehead, a little bit higher, and then angle, angle, then this outcropping of the curl, maybe a little bit higher with that. So I'm doing macro angles now. And then it angles in, and yeah, then this, and then it angles, and then it angles down. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Okay. So now bridge of the nose. Let's just come down. There's not a lot of shadows on the nose. There's a little shadow shape here. There's a chip here. And then there's a darker shadow shape here into the chipped nostril. How far away is that from the eye? And if that's the bottom of the ear, it's a little bit higher than the bottom of the ear. Oh, hold on. I think my friend is at the door. Let me go get my friend. 1 second. Yeah, I got my friend here, Truffles. Let's switch cameras for a second. Hey, Truffs, why don't you say hello to everybody? You want to say hello? Yeah. You want to draw? Yeah, let's let Truffles draw a little bit here. All right, Truffs, let's see if you can. Do you like the color race? Let's see. You want to try to draw with the color race, Truffs? Let me switch cameras. Let's get back to it. Yes, Truffs, let's give it a go. Do you like shading, Truffs? Absolutely. Where's your paw? Okay, the first dog drawing on YouTube. You, okay, I can't stretch. Truffs, you're going to go sit down, girl. All right, 1 second. 1 second. Let me put her in her chair. And yeah, she's lost. Okay, so we're back. We're back. Cool, cool. So let's work on this other eye. So there's an angle here. Now, I'm pressing down to, if this was a quote unquote academic drawing where I wanted to match the values. Yeah, Phoenix. She's pretty good. She's a little lost lately without her sister. So yeah, I feel really bad for her. So yeah, when you have had dogs in the family for years, everybody who's had a dog knows exactly what I'm talking about. You know, their lifespan is pretty short. Um, So it's brutal when you have to say goodbye to them. Absolutely. That was the beginning of my summer back in May, saying goodbye to a dog that I have had for 12 years, 12 plus years. Uh, okay, now with this, let's go across from this eyelid area. The light part of their level. So that should be level. I have this one a wee bit too. One could argue that I have that too high. So I like this the way that, okay, oh, I see. This eyelid is closer to the brow. And now it's a little bit more level. Don't press down so hard here. Keep it somewhat light. Now, okay, so school starting. I've mentioned it a gazillion times already, right? But now is a great time for those of you older folks who aren't going to school to use this opportunity to get back to the basics and to revisit some of the same old techniques. Like what happens with a lot of art students, whether you're an art student who's 50 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old, 19 years old, you might have learned something from a YouTube instructor or teacher in high school or continuing education style teacher. And you're like, oh, yeah, I know that. I learned that years ago. But have you practiced it? That's different. Yeah, it's really important, Nancy. That again, um, it's weird because someone like yourself, you've seen me teach this years ago, and you've probably heard me teach this multiple times. But this is just like the fundamentals of like the ABCs of drawing a portrait for me. And it's something that needs to be revisited if you are a portrait artist. And that is primarily what you draw, whether it's your hobby or you do it professionally and people pay you. I think it's so very valuable for you to revisit the basics. And then when you revisit these basics, that's really what the title of this YouTube video should have been, revisiting the basics. You see the basics deeper, and your knowledge of drawing and your practice just gets, it just goes deeper. And you understand the fundamentals at a really deep level. And there's nothing that could replace that. Nothing. Now, it's truly the people who get better and are deeper with their skill set, the people who constantly revisit these basics. And it's just because it's just, again, if we take the athlete analogy, it's the athlete stretching. And this is kind of like stretching. Like they might be really good at their sport. They might be the top player on the team. But the basics are, okay, I need to practice stretching my hamstrings. Or maybe it's just, if they're a basketball player, how many times have they practiced free throws? It's like so very redundant. But really, when people are practicing, say, their free throws, if they're a professional basketball player, like they're really practicing their mental process for doing the free throw under pressure and using the same mental process over and over and over again. And so this is for you if you're even if you are like an art teacher and you're following me and you want to learn some new techniques. This is just something that is for an art teacher. Forget about student, is something that you should practice over and over and over again. These sort of angles. I'm doing the macro angles now because it's just fundamental to being able to draw a likeness. Now, again, I'm physically drawing this today. But And I'm doing it because that's my job as a teacher, to do the isolation techniques and to show you. But when I draw a portrait in my own natural style, I don't enjoy using straight lines. It's just not my thing anymore. Um, but it's good for teaching like this. Okay. I don't know how sold I am on this one, but it is what it is. I'm just looking. Okay. So what I'm gonna do next is I'm just gonna use my brush, and I want to push the pencil into the paper. I want to make everything a little bit softer. Okay. So I'm gonna push here, push here. So it's almost like soft core painting almost. Don't worry about being within the lines. This is already blended from my hand. And I could use a bigger brush, be a little bit more aggressive, because I want to draw with my eraser. So now what we have here is a ghost-like impression of our model. Very, very faint, very, very soft. And what we're doing also, everybody, is we're taking some of the pencil off of the paper. So the pencil line just got a little bit lighter. Okay. So now what I could do, let me just get my last little swig of coffee here. And I put chocolate electrolytes in my coffee. So I just want to get the last part of the electrolytes. It's pretty good, actually. Okay, so we've been at the drawing for probably 45 minutes, maybe 50 minutes, because I did a lot of talking. Denny, I think I tend to use straight lines too much, that the drawing tends to look not very natural. Agreed, agreed. So I'm looking across my room. I've got like a boatload of drawings on the wall. Um, Yeah, they're all organic lines, all organic lines. But uh, okay, so Denny, check this out. You should practice. Let me get a scrap piece of paper. Denny, you should practice also drawing the body, just the torso peanut shape to be exact, using like there's no straight lines there. Okay, so I could do this, and then I can be like navel, circle, breast, circle, curves, curves, ribs. I'm using a couple of angles there. Let me stick with the curves. Curves, pelvis, pubic bone, chest, deltoid, deltoid, neck. Let's bring out the hip. Let's just do the upper leg. Let's do the other. I used a straight line, sorry. Upper leg. So I just did a scribbly torso. Okay, scribbly torso. And that just looks so. Now, there's a time and a place, Denny, for the straight lines. So the time and the place is over here where there's bones. So I'm seeing a little bit more bone at the shoulder. I'm seeing a little bit more bone over here at the clavicle. I am seeing a little bit of rigidness over here at that rib cage. I had the rib cage sticking out way too much. And maybe a little bit of bone over here at the pelvis. So it's you have to know when to use straight lines and when not to use straight lines. And then, Denny, in terms of lighting, maybe the light is coming from up above, and so it's just shadow shape on the underplanes, shadow shape, and a cast shadow. shadow shape on the underplane. This lower abs, I'll lower the pubic bone, is turning under, cast shadow. This leg is starting to turn under. This cylinder is starting to turn under. This is an underplane, it's shadow. So that is how you should really think about the figure, with those curvy lines and also the straight lines. Like, because it's both. It's totally both. No doubt. Okay, back to this monstrosity. So I'm now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start all over again, and I'm going to go to my home base, right? So home base, I could start to, should I do it without focusing on too much proportions, or slow and controlled? Denny, I think what we do, I could just tell you what we do in the classroom. So in the classroom, what we do every single day to start are 2-minute gesture poses of the model for 20 minutes. So if you don't like that, of course, I put my sharpener away. 1 second. Okay, hold on. So just do 5 2-minute poses, Denny, with not caring about proportions, just very, very loose. You get something, and you do a gesture style drawing of the model, and you only use continuous line. Okay. And your goal is to loosen up. And then your next session could be 2 5-minute poses of the figure from a photo if you're not in a life drawing class. And you could just do the gestural style lines, but now you're going to slow down, and you're going to look, Denny, and you're going to try to measure more visually. Okay. And then take a break, and then do maybe a 10-minute drawing of whatever. And now in the 10-minute drawing, you're doing a combination of continuous line with angles, and you use the angles at bony parts of the model. So the knees, the ankles, the wrist, maybe the shoulders. If they're really thin, the shoulders tend to look a little bit more bony. The foot tends to be a thin part. Now look, I'm looking at this tilt of the nose to the bottom of the eyelid. That's a good little measure line area there. Now I'm looking at the edge of the nose to the edge of the face. So I'm revisiting this, and now I've got the little nostril area. So it's a progression, Denny. It's a progression. And then every hi pencil pages. Thank you for joining us. The other thing that's very important, everybody, is that you should do the same thing on your own that I'm doing with y'all here on YouTube. You should isolate certain techniques and practice in isolation. So so you can say, okay, it's Saturday. I only have 2 hours to work on my drawing hobby, if that's what it is. And so this Saturday, I'm going to do the drawing technique that Matt's teaching us here on YouTube. I'm going to do the angles and the measurements. And my only goal in this drawing, I don't care about looseness. I don't care about gesture. I just want to practice doing a gesture. And my only goal is accuracy and likeness. And then next Saturday, if you have time to draw, then next Saturday could be, okay, I got 2-3 hours to work, and now my goal is gesture and to not draw stiff. And so you just focus on that. And so that's one way to do things. Truffles is doing good. Truffles had a visit in the live stream today. Truffles was drawing a little bit with us. So now I'm also using angles on the shadow shape here, or at least I'm trying. And so I need to use the mono 0 over here and erase out the lid. Lower lid. Don't know how much I love that, but totally like an almond shape, which I don't like doing eyes as almond shapes, but tear duct tilts down. Don't know how much I love that, but it's all good. Let's just keep going. And bottom of the nose, don't press down so heavy. Chipped part of the nose, if this is the tear duct, right below it. So the nose needs to go to the left slightly. And then there's a surface plane over here that has like a little value. There's a surface plane over here that's the chip. Has a little value. I'm not being accurate. I need to slow down and look a little bit more. So you're looking a lot at the photo reference today, more than you are looking at your drawing. I need to actually look a little bit more. You know, I tend sometimes on the live streams, it's just natural for me. I get like a little distracted, obviously, because it's a banter back and forth with y'all. And so I do get distracted. And so if I was just doing this, and I want to have a banter back and forth, that's the whole point of this. If I was not doing a live stream, I would really be concentrated a little bit more and looking more and pausing and looking and pausing and looking. Now, when I do that, I don't think that's necessarily like must-see TV here on YouTube. So I've got to be careful. I still want to keep you all like interested in what I'm doing here so I don't lose everybody. But that's what you should be doing. You should be looking way more at the photo reference than you look at your drawing. So it should be a minimum of 50% looking at your drawing. So 50% looking time, and then the other 50% drawing time. That's the minimum. And you should, even before, if it's a portrait drawing that is very important to you, you should draw some of those lines on top of the photo before you even start to draw, right? I think that's super duper helpful if you struggle with the likeness thing. So and then what I help people with, I don't know, I think they did before the Romans chopped them off. Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, I lost my train of thought there, but I think it's just absolutely what I was saying. My brain is not working here. Okay, so I think I need to erase and make the lower lip light. So right now what I'm doing, everybody, is I'm just kind of drawing light shapes, shadow shapes. And the lower lip is bigger. That light shape of the lower lip. So what is really helpful for y'all to do is to not think that you're drawing facial features. Now, this shadow shape is closer to the edge of the face. You are drawing abstract shapes of light and shadow. Muscius muskrat, I am not using a graphite pencil. I am using my Kohl erase pencil. And it's just, I don't know, if I was going to say, let me get a scrap piece of paper here. So Muscius muskrat, this is my philosophy. You don't need to agree with it. I like to use one pencil for all of my drawings, just one. And it's my touch that gets the hardness of the graphite. So that's more of like a 2H, H, HB, B, 2B, 3B, and I could keep going. 6H. Okay. So could you use all the pencils if that's what you're into? Of course. You got to make it fun. But I'm just using a Prismacolor Kohl erase pencil. Not charcoal, not graphite, neither. But I think this is you could use whatever. You could use any medium for this. It doesn't matter. It's what you are into. Or maybe the live stream today, you're going to think of this as like experimentation. So you can experiment. Now, I hate most colored pencils. This is the only colored pencil that I use. And I say this over and over again on the live streams, and I apologize for repeating. But Prismacolor really screwed up. That's the brand, Prismacolor. And I'll get a bigger pencil so I can show you. This is the brand, Prismacolor. And that's the pencil, Colorase. They used to sell them separately, and now you cannot buy them separately. You have to buy the pack, and it's the most annoying thing. So, yeah. Okay, let me let Truffles out of the office. 1 second. Okay. So I I'm kind of into the drawing, and it's pretty fun. It's just, listen, everybody, this would just take me flipping forever to finish. Okay. Now, yeah, you also need to put things into perspective. So when I was an illustrator, I don't know, we might have some new people here on the live stream, but I was an illustrator, I'm repeating myself, for 18 years, from 1990 to basically, I had enough after 18 years, and I'm like, I just don't want to do deadlines anymore. But yeah, I mean, I would work on one book cover oil painting for 7 days. So we're into this drawing an hour and 10 minutes, which is nothing. So if you really think about it, this drawing would take me hours to do all of the hair. Notice I'm not doing the details in the hair. It's just, I can't do all that on the live stream. The packs of Colorase usually come packaged with a yellow orange. Yeah, I know. I'm never going to use the yellow. I mean, I like some colors. I really enjoy working with some colors monochromatically, like terracotta. Two of my best drawings were done with a red pencil. So yeah, I mean, but the other make of the Prismacolor colored pencils where you can't erase them, I despise them. I can't draw with them at all. And I used it on the last portrait that I did on the live stream, and I couldn't go over it with my white charcoal pencil. I couldn't go over it with the regular Colorase. Like, once the colored pencils are down, like, they're down. So I should focus on this mouth a little bit more, because it's a big part of the accuracy equation. I think I have this chip going too high up. Verithin are good. They're just darker, and I have those. So yeah, let me see. I'm curious. Where's my Verithin? 1 second. So Colorase, Verithin. Wow, that's really black. Could I go really light with the Verithin? Yes. Now, does the Verithin erase? Why do I keep losing my eraser? There it is. It's buried. Does the Verithin erase? I'm trying not to destroy the point. Let me use this one. It does. It leaves a little residue there, so that if you really want like, this is the Colorase, it erases beautifully. I like the Verithin, and I've seen some artists use both the Colorase combined with the Verithin, and I think that's awesome. I have the mouth too wide, because I started moving the mouth over to the left, and so it's definitely too wide. So I'm going to bring it in. I don't know if it's the same. I'm going to tend to say no because there's something in the Col-Erase pencil that allows the user to erase. And so that means the Verithin has different materials within the pencil. Now, this nose thing is a little bit lower here. I almost used the Verithin, and who knows, maybe I will use it for part of the drawing. But this pencil is, in my opinion, a really good pencil to use for this statue drawing because there's the value ratios, and the value ratios are this technique that I teach. So when you're drawing a white egg, it looks like a white egg. And when you're drawing black leather, it looks like black leather. So we're drawing a light marble statue. I want it to look like a light marble statue. So I don't want to press down too hard and make everything ultra, ultra dark because then, values play a big part in likeness as well. Okay. Any questions, people? I'm here to help you today here. And I got to admit, I'm somewhat pleased with it so far. It's not perfect, but it's kind of working. Watch. Now I look at things and they're not working. So let me just shut the heck up. I'm looking at the distance from this part of the nose. Now, again, is this like super high creativity? Is it really sexy? Is it really, really artistic? No, it's technique. It's accurate. It's being able to draw accurately. And I'm not saying mine is 100% accurate yet. It's not. It just is going to take me. It's fighting me today, and that's fine. It's just whenever you struggle, because I do this and it's really good. Whenever you struggle, just say to yourself, it's just practice. I'm getting better, and write down what your struggles were and write down what you did really, really good. So the next time you start a drawing, read what you did really good. And don't write too many of your struggles down because then if you do, they're probably gonna repeat themselves. So you want to focus more on what you did well. Yes, I like that, Nancy. For me, what a lot of the ideal posture for viewing a canvas is, yeah, it's about the ideal posture, but it's also about the longevity of your body, and I think it's about changing positions throughout the work day and throughout. There is no ideal. Like I love drawing at a 45-degree angle. That really super duper works for me. In the classroom, I put my pad and my iPad on my easel, and the easel is vertical. But after a while, vertical destroys my shoulder. It destroys my neck because I'm holding up my arm, the weight of my arm. So like right now, I'm working at a 45-degree angle, and it's beautiful because the weight of my arm is on my hand. So it's easier on my shoulder. And so there's no right and there's no wrong. I think what you need to do is you need to vary your work process. So like right now, I have a standing desk. So I could raise this with my standing desk and lower it, and I can work standing up, but that would screw everything up with my camera. So I can't do that. But I'm going to say that I'm extremely partial to a 45-degree angle. I like working vertically for short periods of time, but eventually that destroys my shoulder. Now, I'm also looking at this curl here is character, so I need to put that curl in it. It almost looks like a little Cheerio. Yeah, and then the other curl is opposite it, and it's a little bit higher. So I'm just going to suggest that little curl there. That's kind of fun. Carol, interestingly, the lower earlobe is almost level with the mouth. In this position, it would normally be level with the nostrils. Yeah, so there's I love using the ear as a measuring tool. And what I've noticed, like I always joke with people and I say that I've seen more nude models than most doctors have. Or let me rephrase that sentence. I've seen more nude people than most doctors have because I've been teaching live drawing since 1998. So I've seen a lot of nude models. And I've noticed with ears that everybody is different. You know, you could have a model come into class and their ears are ginormous. And it goes and it breaks every flipping rule of ear placement. And then you get models that have ears that are very, very low on their head. And the ears are equal closer with their lip and not the bottom of their nose. So it's I like base measurements, but then there's the individual aspect of each person or statue that you're drawing. And yeah, so there's a lot to take into consideration. Okay, so I am going to, this is really not important. Now I'm getting into a little bit of rendering here, and I should be talking more about angles and measurements, but I just want to put a little bit of tone here, come in under the chin, because this is a big part of me getting a likeness is these shadow shapes. So I'm going to come over here. Very round, soft face. And I'm looking at this part, the angle of the hair, and then it angles over the ear. Okay. Now, back to the big brush. So here's a question, and I don't think I understand it. Can the major and minor axis be used to measure the placement of the nose and your eye on the head? So there's more than two, but let's just talk about two different ways to measure. So one way to measure are plumb lines. So what's right below this dark of the bridge of the nose, that's a plumb line. What's right across from the top of that shadow's lower, that's a level line. I haven't spoken about center line. So center line would be center of the lips, center of the nose, center of the bridge of the nose. I haven't really talked about that. I'm using different measurement things, and it's kind of exactly what Nancy just mentioned. It's more about measuring what you see. Yeah. So okay, let's talk about this. Pencil pages. 1 second. I'm hearing all of these. So I live on Eastern Long Island, and I'm about like 15 minutes away from West Hampton, and there's East Hampton, Southampton, all these different Hamptons. And where I live, there's a road that people take to go to the southern part of Long Island to go to the Hamptons. And I'm hearing all supercars today going out to the Hamptons, and they're like racing on this one road. I can hear their motors, engines. It sounds really awesome. Okay, and they're really loud. Let's see. What am I doing? We were talking about this. So pencil pages. I like to take the very top of the model's head, the very bottom of the chin, the very left side, the very right side, and put a box around the model. And I look at those negative spaces. And that is one, I didn't do that much in this tutorial here today, in this demonstration, but that is one thing that you could do that could be for the access. And I do have, it's lesson 5 on my website in the Begin Here Step-by-Step course. And I teach that you do this box and then you find the center of the box. Yeah, so you could do that. Absolutely. There's a million different ways to measure. I'm not doing that per se. I haven't even really spoken about negative space in this lesson here on YouTube today. Yeah. I'm just trying to keep it to a couple of techniques: the level lines, plumb lines, and angles. And I gotta say, I have used a lot of measuring of shadow shapes. I'm really using a lot of shadow shapes in today's class. So check this out. I'm gonna draw a little bit with the kneaded eraser. Thank you, Giorgio. I thank you for joining us, and I appreciate you, brother. Good job. Just pulling out some of those values. Okay, so we're an hour and a half in to the live stream. So I'm going to give myself a little commercial, okay, for a minute. Now, listen, people. If you are struggling with this and you're watching me and you're like, oh, God, I'm still not getting this, I'm very, very frustrated, you should really consider doing the one-to-one coaching with me. It's the way that people improve the fastest. And how does the one-to-one coaching work? Well, you sign up for the coaching and then you send me anywhere from like 5 to 10 drawings with reference. And the initial critique that I do is I draw on top of your drawings. And you're also going to give me context, like what are your goals, what do you struggle with, where do you want to go with all of this, and I give you my first initial critique. It's usually about 45 minutes where I draw on top of your drawings. I film it, you get to download it, and then we meet on Zoom or via the phone if you don't like Zoom, and then I give you homework, and then it usually is the next 2 weeks. You send me your drawings. I do another draw over in Photoshop, and then we have another follow-up call. And this happens, you get 3 downloadable video critiques. 4 Zoom calls with me, and you improve so fast. So if you're interested in that, because what you're doing is watching me here on YouTube, which is great. You're learning, but it's almost a little bit passive, and sometimes you need proactive learning. And proactive learning is just not watching a demonstration. It's actually having a back and forth with the teacher and incorporating your artwork in the back and forth instead of always asking questions about the teacher's artwork. I have been doing coaching for a while now with people, and it's just the fastest way to see improvement. And it's really, really, really valuable if you're stuck. That's when it's like most valuable, where you've been doing something and you're not seeing any progress. And you're like, what gives? I'm going to give up on this. And then you start switching to a different hobby. And so, yeah, now I don't just talk about likeness in the coaching. Coaching could be for a high school student who is trying to put together a portfolio to get into college. Coaching could be for somebody who likes to paint landscapes but is just completely lost in their landscape. Paintings are flat. I talk about composition, values, all perspective, all these different things. So, yeah, you can click on the link in the show more notes under the video and go to MatthewArchambault.com and read a little bit about the coaching there. All right, so how are we doing with this drawing? The other cool thing about the coaching is that you can separate that into 4 payments if you don't have the money for the lump sum. Yeah, and then you can separate it into the 4 payments, it makes it a little less painful. Okay, so with that being said, I'm going to do a couple of shadow shapes. Thank you. I appreciate you, Outdoor Spaces, and thank you so much for that. And we can be flexible with the meeting times. We can meet on a Saturday. I'm in the city Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, so those are the only days that I can't really meet. Okay, so I'm okay with it. There's something. This feels a little too tilted to me. I think I need to counteract that tilt by tilting it in here. Yes. I appreciate you joining me. Okay, let's see. Where are we? I'm going to do a couple of shadow shapes in the hair. So there's that. These are like pasta noodles almost. Did I miss the rate, please? I don't really. You just click on my website, MatthewArchambault.com, and it's right there. Like soon as you hit the, I've simplified that website, so it's really easy to navigate. It says artist coaching right on my homepage there. If you just scroll down like one quick little scroll, and then you'll see I have a shop and there's pricing right there. So I'm just doing some shapes. And I don't do coaching with many people. I don't like to be overwhelmed. And so the good thing about the coaching is that I'm not coaching hundreds of I'm teaching hundreds of people, but I'm not coaching hundreds of people. And that's the other good thing, is that you really get my attention. And sometimes you just need that. Now, this shadow shape over here is, I'm looking at that in relationship to that eye. And these are like, it's just an underplane shadow over here. It's a live stream. I don't have time to do all the folds. And so I'm kind of keeping it somewhat abstract. So let's do a little recap. Let's do a little recap here. So in this class, we talked about one of the most important things for you to do, or before you even start drawing, is do some measure lines. Now, if you like working from printed photos and not from working on an iPad or your computer screen, draw some lines on top of the photo reference. This is so important. You don't need to do a million, just do some big ones. The other thing is you're drawing with straight lines in today's class, and you're really focused in on the edge. Okay, angles. What's a 45-degree angle? What's going perfectly straight up and down? And getting these subtleties and going with big macro angles. And then the other thing is always looking at the negative space. Okay, always looking at this negative space. Now, I haven't decided if I want to do a background. I think I'm going to do a little bit of a background tone, just for fun, over here. I want to see what happens. I don't want to waste too much time shading, but I'm going to do a little bit of background tone over here, and then, because I want to use my eraser and draw with the eraser a little bit. Now, if you've made some, I don't like to say mistake lines, but let's just say mistake lines, and you made a mistake, and this is how to get rid of some of those mistake lines. And this is also a good way for you to lose edges. Okay, now we're getting into a different subject matter here, so I got to be careful, because today's class is supposed to be about isolating techniques, but I also don't want to be boring either and just talk about the same thing for like 2 hours. So I'm just putting in a little bit of tone there. Now, I could use the blending stump. I could do that, but I don't want to. I'm not in a blending stump sort of mood. I'm going to use this bigger Bristol canvas brush. It's a little softer. The blend-in stump is a little aggressive. This takes some of the pencil off of the paper, actually. Now, don't make your drawing about the background tone. This needs to be soft and fluffy. It's there just as a soft tone. Now, what I could do, and I'm going to use the bigger eraser, but let me just, I don't need to chisel it. So I'll have both of these. They're really helpful. I'm going to pull out a little bit over here on that little noodle shape piece of, it almost looks like pasta. So there's two shapes there. There's a little light over here next to the little round curl. I want to keep the turn-in plane a little bit darker. There's that light there. So I've got a little bit now of a tilt. As soon as I did that, what I noticed is that I need to pay attention to this and just get that shape a little bit more accurate. It's a little rounder. So now I can start to use macro angles to round that. I can go a little bit, sharpen my pencil just a touch. Look at the distance from the lower eyelid. I'm really far away from the drawing. I shouldn't be doing this detail. I should save this until after the live stream so I can actually get close. Now, if I get close, this is what happens. You see my head, and nobody wants to see my head. Absolutely not. That needs to be moved over. This needs to be raised. So this is why I'm a big believer in working the whole drawing at once, because you just like doing that tone helped me to see this. So you don't want to get stuck in like one area, right? That's no good. You want to keep moving around. And this eye has a value, a pretty definitive value to it. I am partial to the smaller mono zero. This is not this light, but I'm just having fun here. Just want to do some chiseling. This is a turning plane. I shouldn't be lightening it that much, but I just feel like making it a little bit more chiseled. This is a little darker here. I'm really trying to examine the shape. And now back to this part of the nose. Look at the distance from this to the edge of the face. And I can come on in with the mono zero. And you got it, Nancy. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to keep going for a little while because I just want to have fun here today. And but I get it. It's for some of you who live here in the U.S., it's Labor Day, and I don't think you'd want to be stuck in front of a computer screen all day, but I'm going to keep going. I'm having fun here. So, yeah, if you feel you've had enough, I totally get it. Again, for me, I've been an artist my whole life, and I understand the value of like practice. And you don't need to practice for a gazillion hours. You just need to make your practice meaningful. And it's meaningful when you isolate techniques. Now, practice is different than your own work. Um, that's a whole different story for a whole nother day. But there, you need to have practice built in so you can keep revisiting these fundamentals. And the more you revisit the fundamentals, the better you get. And you just it's about your subconscious brain and getting some of these fundamentals into your subconscious, so you don't need to think so much about the fundamentals. You think about the creative process, composing, all other things. Totally. Let's see here. Yeah, it's a great day. I Yesterday was so beautiful here on Eastern Long Island. Today's a little gray. We desperately need rain. We're in a little bit of a drought. Parts of this eye socket, I made them. I just pulled out the whole eraser. So let's see. I think this eraser is at the end of its rope. Oh no, not yet. So when do I use the kneaded versus the mono zero? So I like to have some areas where I drag the kneaded eraser over part of the drawing. It just lightens it a value. So I like to use it like this eye socket shadow shape's a little bit lighter. The nose is not accurate. That's troubling. So I'm gonna use my big brush, get rid of some of these eraser crumbs. And I could also flatten this kneaded eraser like I'm pinching it. And I could drag and make this a little softer. Yes. I think I need to work on the jawbone a little bit. You don't want to press down hard. Ooh, that was scary. Down hard there. I'm going to just go a little darker here, not too much. Why is this happening to me today? Okay, I know I need to get a new camera. That's next on the to-do list. So I'm not pressing down hard. Just using a scribbling pencil stroke. Does anybody have any? Oh, okay. Pencil Pages, Tombow Mono Eraser. It's a great affordable Japanese stationery. Nice. Yeah, I was turned on to it back a few years ago by a student on the live stream. I never even knew about it. So I learn a lot from my students, both here on YouTube, on my website, in the classroom. So it's a back and forth thing when you're a teacher, and I love learning. Like I love when my students in my SVA classes, like the younger students, teach me stuff. They feel so happy when they've taught me something, and I'm very, very accepting that I don't know a lot of things, especially when it comes to like digital. I'm like, how did you do that? And then they show me like their Photoshop technique, and I love that. I love that back and forth with the younger students. Oh, I see. I didn't get the top plane over here on the nose. So right here, there's a massive top plane. It just needs to be lighter. Oops. Just erasing this out. Thank you, Denny. Let me know when you get bored. I don't know. We're going to be at 2 hours at 12 o'clock. I mean, I'm having fun. The only difference of what I would be doing if I was not doing a live stream is I would take more breaks. I would physically get up off of this seat more. I would get more to drink, probably another coffee. Um, I would stretch a little bit. Like it's really bad to sit down for long, long periods of time like this. So um, that's the only difference of what I would be doing. And I don't like this nose. What is going on? Let me get rid of the eraser crumbs. So when you struggle with the nose, like I should be squinting at it a little bit more. And I think the tear duct is a little bit in. So the edge of the tear duct edge of the nose, maybe I am going to move it over a little. Maybe it needs to be a little bit to the left. My stomach is completely growling because I did not have breakfast. So yeah, I ate so much bad food yesterday. I'm very limited with my diet, and I went crazy this holiday weekend here. This last summer weekend, I kind of indulged in foods that I don't normally eat, and I'm feeling it. So I didn't eat breakfast because I'm like, I need to do a little fasting here. So give my freaking digestive system a break. Appreciate that, Danny. Okay, so let's see here. Let me curve this. This should not be a straight line. That should curve around the cylinder of the neck. And I just discovered this on the chin. Now I'm holding. So I'm holding these 4 tools. And yeah. Okay, so just rotating in between the tools. When you use the Bristol brush on this paper, this is not expensive paper. It's accessible to everybody with every budget. That's why I like it so much. You can find it anywhere. The Strathmore drawing paper, 80-pound paper. It does take you're watching me erase. It takes a good amount of abuse with the eraser. Yeah, check it out. Pencil Pages. Hold on. I got this app, Moongate, and it has all of like these different waves that you can listen to, and it's really cool. I've been listening to this a lot lately when I work, and there's some of them like that I don't like because it's like you almost hear like a motor running, like a low hum in all of them, and some of the hums I like better than others. So yeah, that's a really cool thing to listen to also. Yeah, I don't really buy apps like this, but I was in the backyard. I'm trying to take advantage of like the last summer days, and I was hanging out in the backyard. It was like 7:30 at night, and I saw this Moongate thing come up on YouTube. I'm sorry, I keep confusing YouTube and Instagram on Instagram. So I was like, it got me, and I lost track of time for a second because I was listening to it. And then they're like, download the free trial. So I downloaded the free trial, and I was just in the backyard and I was listening to it, and I did lose track a little bit of time. And I'm like, oh wow, that's really cool. And then I started listening to it while I was writing some stuff and doing some like work in my studio, and it did not distract me. Like it literally kept me focused. And I love music. I've got Spotify and all that, but sometimes I get distracted with music. This is just more of like a brainwave, and it doesn't distract me as much. Okay. Now, I don't know how much long. Maybe I'll go till 12. What do you think? Okay. Well, you should yeah, you should Google Moongate Android. Moongate for Android. You never know. I mean, I listen to everything. I listen to rock. I listen to grunge from the '90s, and I listen to everything, everything. Um, Lots of variety. I should focus a little bit more up top over here. Lately, I'm just obsessing on a playlist where I click on Moby, and I've got Moby on constantly in the background. I'm sure I'm gonna burn out on Moby in another week or so. I did start getting sick of one of the songs because I've abused it and listened to it way too much. So now I'm doing micro angles again. So yeah, when I and then I started listening to the Rolling Stones again. I pretty much grew up with them, but I am listening to them again. So I just click on the Rolling Stones and I just let the popular songs play on Spotify. And it's not my playlist, it's just Spotify's playlist. And then I switch to Moongate when I'm doing this stuff. So, okay, we're getting there. It's a slow thing. All right, Carol, thank you. Thank you for joining us, Carol. I appreciate you. We're going to go until like 12 o'clock. Kind of in the zone right now, but I could go a little longer, but I think I need to eat something and I think I need to get up off of this chair. So you see what I'm doing with these angles? So just to a little bit of a recap right now, y'all need to revisit the fun. I can't even talk. The fundamentals. You need to do this boring stuff over and over again. Now, for you, it could be you do a drawing like this once a month. And if you do this once a month, you will do 12 a year. And that's 12 practice sessions of the angles and the measurements. For those of you who want to get better quicker and you have not that much experience with this technique, you should do this a minimum of once a week for like 20 minutes. And if you really want to get better, you have your practice session before you work on your own personal drawings, whether that be a comic page, sheet, or an animation background, or you're animating something, or you're doing portraits. You should do this before you work, and you should spend a good chunk of time, 20 minutes, doing one of these angles and measurements style drawing. I used to do this when I first started painting book covers. I would take 20 minutes before I would paint, and I would practice the fundamentals. And you can't get bored. It's just something that's going to help you to improve. You've got to think of it that way if you do get a little bit bored. And the key to preventing the boredom is drawing what you love. Like I love these old world statues. Like they're really interesting to me, and just because one of my favorite places on the planet is the Metropolitan Museum of Art. So I've been going there for 30 plus years, and it's still my favorite part of the planet, pretty much. So yeah, I love the statues. Like the American Wing is pretty much my favorite place. I love Greek and Roman. This is from Greek and Roman. I've drawn this statue in that gallery multiple times. It's so much fun. Just going over some of these little measure line areas, little landmarks, trying to resolve things. I might make this a little bit lower. I don't know. I still have a ways to go. Now, another thing that we can do to help with the accuracy is get rid of some of these edge lines. Because when you have the dark edge lines, it does change up. Like this line is a broken line. This too gets like a little lighter over here. It's not that dark. Like that does change. Going off-road with Joe. Joe, thanks, brother. Appreciate it. Make sure you like and subscribe if you're not already. And yeah, I got to do the YouTube thing, pretend that I'm a YouTuber. Thank you, Joe. We're going until 2. I'm sorry, till 12. And then, yeah, we're pretty much done. So there's a little thing that goes across here. And then I'm going to work on this a little bit after the live stream, and I'll post it up. Some of the drawings that I'm doing for the live streams are for sale. So if you go to MatthewArchambault.com, you'll see a link for handcrafted artwork. Now, if I wanted to here, I could do a reverse gradation and erase this and just start to chisel out that side of the head. Awesome. This is pretty light. So I can do a full-blown tonal. I don't know how far I'm going to take this drawing. Sometimes I like things to just be finished and be a study and not a finished piece. So the finished is a study. Those are some of the nicest drawings. Sometimes you take the drawing to completion and you're like, I kind of liked it when it was halfway done. So there's something to be said for that. All right, couple more minutes here. Any last questions before we call this live stream done? It was fun. Definitely fun. It went by pretty fast. Not bad. These curls are really cool. Got to put that little hole in the Cheerio cereal there. Measure like what's right below that. I have it a little bit too close to the edge of the eye. Now, one could argue I didn't really render the eye as much as I could, so it could be the right placement. This would also be really fun with paint. Oh, I could play with this over here also. Just it's deeper dives. Okay, so Denny asks, do you have any advice for someone who wants to become an art teacher? So I'll close the live stream with this, everybody. So I became an art teacher by accident. I did not ever thought of being a teacher. So this was back in the 90s. And I was an illustrator, and I was pretty successful after graduating from college. And my teacher said, hey, you want to come on in and talk to my students, my old teacher, and tell them how you're successful and what you're doing and show some of your paintings. And I did that, and I'm going to get to answer your question specifically, Denny. And I did that, and I had an anxiety attack because I was such an introvert because I was constantly in my studio painting. So I got so pissed off that I got that anxiety attack. I never even knew what an anxiety attack was because I was talking in front of all these students, and they were like right on top of me, and I'm like, what the? And so I called the chair of the department at the time, and I'm like, hey, if you ever need a substitute teacher, I would love to teach. I just visited my old teacher's class. I had fun. So like a year later, he called and he's like, I've got a class open and you want to teach it? Principles of illustration. I'm like, you bet. So I started teaching, and then I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And teaching was the best thing for me. So I guess for me to answer your question, Denny, what advice do I have for somebody who wants to become an art teacher is you've got to develop your skills because like my classes are long. They're 3 hours and 6 hours. And you've got to fill that time with teaching techniques. So you've got to really break down drawing into a bunch of different ideas and techniques, and then you divide your classes into categories and you teach those techniques. And it's really what you've got to do is you've got to build up your vocabulary of techniques and ideas. You got it, pencil pages. Yeah, absolutely. So that's Denny, my recommendation. Keep building up your techniques, and the rest of it is got to be the sequencing of how you teach things in a certain order. So it one thing builds upon the next, and you don't overwhelm students with too much. So that's another thing. And then the last thing I'll say is, and I've learned this a little bit later in my teaching career, and I do this with the coaching. It's more of the mental game, and how students talk to themselves in their own brain. And so I've been incorporating a lot of that into the mix as of the last couple of years. Hope that helped. All right, everybody, it is 12 noon. We've been at this for 2 hours. I hope you got something. Let me switch cameras here. Yeah, and let me just grab this drawing and hold it up for y'all to see it from a different point of view. But I want to keep my underlayment page, my cushion sheet of paper in the same place. So let me just kind of tape that down. And okay, sweet. Blue tape is my savior. I got pencil eraser things all over. So this is where we're at with the drawing. And I'm somewhat pleased with it for a live stream. And I thank you all for joining me here today. And make sure you like and subscribe. And I'll post the finished drawing in the posts. And check it out there. And thank you, everybody. Awesome. There's a little bit of a delay. I'm just going to give everyone a second to say goodbye. Thank you, Karen, Paul, Helen, Denny, Pencil Pages, Off-Road with Joe left a couple minutes ago. Carol left a couple of minutes ago. So I thank you all for joining me here today. All right. I will see you next Monday. Same bat time, same bat place. 10 a.m. on Mondays. I'm going to be teaching one thing in isolation from my foundation drawing class at the School of Visual Arts to help you improve. And it's a lot of fun, and I'll talk to you soon, okay? Thanks again.